And Shergar is going on and going clear. The odds-on favourite clear in the Derby.
When I saw him in the Derby, I thought this is the greatest horse I've ever seen, without a doubt. He was the ultimate racing machine.
His value is £10 million. It could soar if he turns out to be a wonder stallion. I remember on Derby Day, I cried in the heat of the moment, this is the racehorse of the century.
In 1983, Shergar, the champion racehorse, was kidnapped by an armed gang. It was the most infamous and audacious crime in racing history. Despite a worldwide search for the missing stallion, no trace was ever found.
Whatever happened to Shergar?
He just seemed to disappear off the face of the earth.
The Shergar mystery was born. Had he been smuggled to the Middle East? Was he the victim of a mafia plot? Or was he being hidden somewhere in Ireland? For more than 20 years, Shergar's kidnap has been shrouded in mystery and intrigue. Now the story can be told. Who planned the kidnap and why? What finally happened to the world's most famous racehorse?
It's been 20 years since Shergar was kidnapped, but I know the name of the people responsible for kidnapping Shergar, the names of the actual kidnap gang.
In June 1981, the biggest event in the flat race calendar was ready to begin. A sporting legend was about to be born.
Very, very calm indeed.
It is the first Derby for both Shergar and his 19-year-old jockey Walter Swinburne, wearing the green colours of the Aga Khan.
This is a very exceptional horse. This is an exceptional. You can just switch him on, pull him out, and he wins.
On the final bend, Tattenham Corner, Shergar is lying third, and then...
He just left them literally for dead. I know it's an old saying, but he did, and I've never seen a horse do that.
Shergar ground them into the dust. He was relentless galloper, and he had his tongue hanging out and his head to his side as he raced.
I can still see him now. All these years on, I can still see him coming up the home straight in the Derby, and all I could see is one horse. And that... What's happened? What's happened?
And it's Shergar in the lead. Shergar.
The roars of the crowd told you what was going on. You didn't need a commentator, but the odd glimpse you got was just this horse in the green colours of the Aga Khan just striding clear. You wondered where the opposition was. Have they all fallen over coming down the hill? It was almost like that. It was almost surreal to see a Derby won by 10 lengths.
But coming up to the line, Shergar is going to win it at the line. Shergar is the winner. Very easy winner.
Shergar had made racing history. His winning margin, the greatest of the century. Just 3 weeks later, he romped home in the Irish Derby. And a month after that, Shergar won the King George VI Stakes, pulling off an incredible treble.
To win the English Derby, Irish Derby and the King George in the same year is like winning the Premier League, the European Cup and also almost the World Cup.
To win the Irish Derby and the English Derby and the King George VI, it's an outstanding achievement. Oh, class. Real class. That's class.
He was a truly great horse, and ask any man in the street, if you'd walk down any high street in 1981 and said Shergar, oh yeah, Shergar. He had crossed the line, without a doubt, where he wasn't just a racehorse anymore. Everybody knew the name Shergar.
Born and raised in Ireland, Shergar was an unlikely hero. He didn't look like a champion racehorse.
He was a dancing horse. He was very spirited. He had one funny eye, and his personality appealed to the punters.
He was just a nice, cuddly horse, and that's what made him so different. He was normal, but he went faster than anything else.
Shergar was owned by the Aga Khan, one of the richest men in the world and spiritual leader to 15 million Ismaili Muslims. The Aga Khan had big plans for Shergar. At the peak of his success, he was retired from racing.
Obviously, one's got to think about the future. You know, I have a lot of mares and I breed my own horses, so this horse is important to me as a breeder.
A new career beckoned back in Ireland. As part of the lucrative horse breeding industry, Shergar was about to become a stud.
He's a very easy horse to do anything with. He's got a very good temperament, and he's got the necessary engine. He's got a great beak.
By the 1980s, horse breeding in Ireland had become big business. Rich owners from around the world had been lured here by huge tax breaks. Having Shergar back in Ireland was a source of national pride.
We were rapidly becoming not only the dominant creators of the horse, but also the dominant marketeers of the horse. And this really was, the icing was flowing all over the souffle in the 80s. And it was a very exciting time for us.
Shergar had done so spectacularly well, and then retired, I suppose, at the high point of his racing career. And people thought, well, we have this wonderful animal who has taken the fight to the English and beaten them, and now he's retiring to stud, and we hope we're going to have a series of spectacularly good progeny from Shergar.
There was huge expectation for Shergar to perform as a stud. The fee for a day with the champion stallion was a cool 70 grand.
I mean, he was the original super stud.
The Aga Khan shrewdly cashed in on his four-legged money-making machine. Shares in Shergar were sold to a syndicate of investors, raising £10 million. Shergar's vet, Stan Cosgrove, was offered the chance to buy into the Dream Syndicate. Little did Stan know that his share in Shergar would change his life forever.
But I bought a share, and I was very privileged and very happy to be allowed to get a share. I mean, there were only 40 shares, and I was allowed to have a share. The Aga Khan allowed me to have a share. It was 250,000 sterling for a share, and you had, I think, 4 years to pay it. I considered it to be a gilt-edged investment at that price.
In 1982, Shergar was Europe's top stud. He fathered 37 foals, which sold for record amounts. Shergar had proved he could perform off the track as well as on. In early 1983, a new stud season was about to begin. On the 8th of February, a major horse sale took place a few miles from Shergar's stable.
It would have been a day when, unusually, there would have been a much greater movement of horses than normal. So it would not have been unusual for people to see horse boxes and trailers around Ireland that night.
On that day, Shergar was taken out for exercise as usual. Later that afternoon, he was returned to his stable under the care of his devoted groom, Jim Fitzgerald. By 8 o'clock, Shergar's groom and his family were relaxing at home. Jim Fitzgerald has never spoken publicly about what happened that evening.
I went around normally to have a look at the horses, like I would after I'd have a meal, just in case they'd be hanging around with them. So I went around normally and had a look at them and then went back. But it was just a normal evening until this happened.
There, move! Right, okay, everyone keep quiet, right, and don't move. Okay, right, we're here for Shergar.
The guy that had the gun, he was aggressive. When he said anything, he meant it.
Okay, you're taking us to the bleeding horse. Come on, move it. Come on, get up.
And I said to them, what are you doing here?
Come on, move it. Get up, move it. We don't want you calling the guards.
The armed gang left 2 men guarding the family. They forced Jim Fitzgerald to take them to Shergar.
Come on, move it. Come on, move it. Move it. Hey, come on. Hey, come on. Hey, come on. Get him. All right, come on, take him out. You come with me. Come on. Off that car over there. Come on. Come on, move it. Move it. Go down the floor. Down the floor.
Put me into this car, into among a couple of them, and we drove for a good while. And I'll tell you, there's quite a few things came into my head. I was wondering what they would do with me. And sure, it must have been frightening for him as as well. We come along this lonely road. One of them said, "We're letting you out now shortly, and don't look back." So I jumped and I got out and got onto the road. I didn't look back, I walked.
Jim was then the only one who knew it. But Shergar, the greatest racehorse of his day, had been kidnapped. Before the gang disappeared into the night, they gave Jim Fitzgerald a code name they would use to get in contact. Jim was warned not to call the guards. At midnight, 4 hours after Shergar had been taken, Jim finally made it back to his house. He telephoned his boss, the stud manager, triggering a bizarre series of early morning phone calls.
Hello, it's Jim.
The stud manager didn't call the police. He called Shergar's vet.
He said, "Shergar's been stolen or kidnapped." And I thought it was April the 1st or something like this.
Stan didn't ring the police. He called a friend in the racing business.
Bloody hell, Stan, what the hell do you want this hour in the morning? Quick, Sean, he says, "Shergar's been kidnapped."
Stan's friend didn't ring the police. He woke up the local TD.
Didn't appreciate being woken up at that hour of the morning. I wouldn't say he was panicking, but he certainly knew that he had a major problem on his hands.
Finally, at 4 in the morning, 8 hours after Shergar was kidnapped, Stan Cosgrove contacted the police. In those hours, Shergar could have been taken anywhere in Ireland or out of the country. The kidnapped gang had got clean away.
We lost 8 hours or whatever it was, and I think they just got ahead of us.
The trail would have been cold because almost every county in Ireland would have had a record of a horse box going through its major towns, coming back from the sales at Goffs. Needle in a haystack stuff.
At midday, the sensational news of this bizarre crime broke around the world.
Britain's most valuable racehorse was stolen from a stud farm in the Irish Republic late last night.
Gunmen entered the stud around 9 o'clock last night. They held Mr. John Fitzgerald and his family in a back room at gunpoint.
No one has ever thought that a horse could be stolen for any reason. There is, of course, the possibility that this might be a vendetta, someone holding a grudge against the Aga Khan.
So we went over then to Ballymanny and identified the fact the stable was empty, the horse was gone. It's a terrible shock. It is a shock. See an empty stable. Nobody ever thought in Ireland that somebody would steal a horse. The last thing we thought he would steal a motor car or something else, but not the horse.
Every hour counted in the search for Shergar. Chief Superintendent James Murphy was put on the kidnapper's trail. The local policeman knew that this was the biggest case of his career.
Well, I'm slightly concerned about it. For the simple reason that a stallion cannot be kept by people who are not well up in the horsey field and who do not know how to keep the animal.
Do you have any leads at the moment?
I have no leads.
Journalists from around the world descended on Newbridge in County Kildare to cover what was becoming a nationwide horse hunt.
Every stud, every stable throughout the Republic is being combed for Shergar. It's probably the biggest hunt the country has ever known.
The search for Shergar is nationwide. Every stables all over Ireland will be searched,
right,
and we'll concentrate on our own area here.
I see.
And we'll have to clear our area, and every other Garda division will have to clear their own.
It started off as a major investigation, and the Serious Crime Squad, which then was the Murder Squad, came down to Newbridge and they set up an investigation, and it was taken from there. I suppose at one stage there could be up to 40, 50, maybe 70 detectives working on it.
The first lead in the search for Shergar had already opened up. 4 hours after the kidnap, before the police had even been informed of what happened, Some horse breeders living 140 miles away near Belfast had been woken with the news.
A man rang our house and spoke to my wife, and he made the demand of £40,000.
Did he give any indication as to what condition the horse is in at the moment?
Yes, he says the horse is in good condition. We asked him particularly to take good care of the horse.
He seemed to be a very rational, well-spoken man.
Just shortly after midnight, on what subsequently turned out the evening he had been kidnapped, the phone rang and the voice said, "We've got Shergar. If you want proof, we'll send you his ear." At the time, we thought they were joking because there had been nothing on the media. I think he'd only been kidnapped late on in the evening, a few hours before. So nobody knew that he'd been kidnapped, and I just presumed it was a hoaxer.
Shortly after, another call was received at the BBC in Belfast.
The man spoke with an educated Southern Irish accent, and he said that they were holding Shergar and they were prepared to negotiate with 3 people, and he named 3 top London racing journalists.
Derek Thompson of ITV Sport got the call.
Derek Thompson, you wanted by the kidnappers of Shergar. What? Thought it was on your bike, trying about it. 2 minutes later, he said, no, I'm being for real here. I'm from the Press Association in Fleet Street. You've been asked, alongside Peter Kempling of The Sun, Lord Oaksey of the ITV7 World of Sport, my colleague, to fly over and negotiate the release of Shergar.
Within hours of being woken, Thompson was on a plane heading for Northern Ireland. The 3 racing pundits landed in Belfast, ready to save Shergar.
We had to go. Of course, if somebody's crying out for help, you obviously help them. You just have to go. And remember, this is a horse that I'd not been brought up with, but I'd seen close at hand. To me, was a hero. It's like a footballing hero you grew up with, a sports hero, someone you really look up. To me, he was something very special. He was the best racehorse in the world.
They were taken to the Europa Hotel in the centre of the city.
And walked into the Europa Hotel, and within 5 seconds of arriving, this voice came over the loudspeaker, phone call from Mr. Derek Thompson. So I went over, I said, where do I take the phone call? And, like a hotel, they have the phone. So I picked up. Hello, is that Derek Thompson? Yes.
How far is that from Dublin? Yeah, from Belfast. 30 miles. Right.
Anyway, we started talking. You must go to this farmhouse about 30 miles outside of Belfast. He said, do you know the Maxwells? I said, no, I've heard of them, but I'd never met them before.
Bye-bye. Well, that's interesting.
Thompson and the other pundits were told to go to the Maxwells' farmhouse, which was now surrounded by armed RUC men. At the Maxwells', there was a tense wait for the phone to ring. At 1:15 in the morning, Thompson took the call.
And he says, I'm the guy who's kidnapped Shergar. I said, yes. He said, you can call me Arkle from now on. The police did say, try and keep him on the line because we'll trace the call. And I kept him on the phone, kept talking, for what I thought was about 2 or 3 minutes. Anyway, he went. And he said, I turned around and said, right, you must have got him. Trace him. And the guy said, no, the man who does the tracing went off duty at midnight. So, and I said, you're joking. No. And I thought, oh no.
The next morning at the Maxwells', the caller rang again.
The guy said, the horse has had an accident. He's dead. And the phone went dead. And that's the last we heard.
I would think, in all honesty, that the negotiations here at the moment are finished for the time being, judging by what the guy said on the phone. And I would think Dublin could take over now.
It is very difficult to say at this stage. It would appear from the reports on last night's news bulletin during the interview with Mr. Maxwell that the people were the people concerned. This morning I am beginning to doubt that, and to be honest, I do not know.
And have you got any leads at all now? Are you any further ahead than you were yesterday?
I regret to say that I'm not.
But Chief Superintendent Murphy knew more than he was letting on. While Thompson and co. were in Belfast, another call had been received. A man rang Shergar's stud farm, this time using the genuine codename.
Hello, is this Kildare 4150? Mr. Dreon, this is King Neptune.
King Neptune was the code name, and that was given to Jim Fitzgerald before they let him out of the car.
I will repeat nothing. You will listen. If you got £2 million in 20s, 50s and 100 bill used notes, do not waste time.
As well as demanding a ransom, the caller made another request.
I want a phone number in France where I can contact you.
They wanted to deal through Paris. They didn't want to be making phone calls to a phone line in Ireland. And they were given a phone number, the Aga Khan's office in Paris.
Over the next 4 days, a series of calls were made between the kidnappers and the Aga Khan's office in Paris. These calls have remained a secret for 20 years, until now.
This is King Neptune. Have you got the money?
No.
You haven't got the money?
No, we can't. There are 35 shareholders.
When will you have the money?
We have to have the agreement of the shareholders. We have to have proof that the horse is still alive.
We have the horse. And if you don't need the money, at the address tomorrow night at 9 o'clock.
There's no more horse, okay?
They thought the Aga Khan owned the horse. In the first place, he didn't own the horse. It was owned by a syndicate. And the people who were in on the syndicate, most of them, probably with the exception of myself, were wealthy people. That was it. And to get them on to agree to something, no, possible.
Shergar had been missing for 2 days. Concern for his safety was mounting.
I think to manage a horse like that, you want a good horseman. You want a very good horseman with him.
I'd say he was very apprehensive. And I would say the people handling him, unless there was a horseman among them, must have been very wary about going near him.
No one knew where Shergar was, or who had taken him. Wild stories quickly sprang up. Some believed the mafia were taking revenge on the Aga Khan over a horse deal that went sour. Others thought that an Arab horse breeder had smuggled him out of Ireland to a secret stud farm. One theory held that Colonel Gaddafi had snatched Shergar and was holding him in Libya.
There was speculation about an Arab connection on the basis of jealousy of the success. There was speculation that it might have been more localized criminals.
While conspiracy theories grabbed the headlines, the secret negotiations with the real kidnappers continued. The syndicate were pushing for proof that Shergar was still alive.
We have heard the news in the press that the horse is dead.
The news in the press is shite. We'll give you proof that the horse is alive. I want you to get a person in Ireland not associated with the stud to go to the Crofton Hotel in Dublin. Tell the person who goes to use the name Johnny Logan.
When the message came through that there was an envelope at the big Victorian hotel on the way out to Dublin Airport, and I thought that that might be the breakthrough.
After 3 days with no progress, there was now hope. The kidnappers were ready to prove that Shergar was alive. Was he coming home? 4 days had passed since Shergar had been snatched. Finally, there was hope of a breakthrough. In secret negotiations, the kidnappers promised that proof the horse was alive would be handed over at the Dublin hotel. It would be given to someone who approached reception and identified himself as Johnny Logan. The Shergar story was about to take another bizarre twist. The syndicate of owners sent Stan Cosgrove to the drop-off.
I was asked, would I go up to the Crofton Hotel? I was to go to the hotel, I was to go to the reception and ask for a message for Johnny Logan, wasn't he, the singer?
But you aren't near. What's another year?
Logan was then one of the biggest pop stars in the country, a Eurovision winner with a wholesome image. At 9 on Saturday morning, Stan Cosgrove, a.k.a. Johnny Logan, approached the Crofton Hotel. Little did Stan know that armed special branch officers were staking it out.
Went to the reception. Have you got a message here for Johnny Logan? No. Went backwards and forwards. I went in and had my breakfast. Good Irish breakfast. Came out. Nothing. Went home.
It was sad. I mean, poor Stan, only, nice man, goes in and says, I'm Johnny Logan. And by the way, I'm Shergar's vet. And immediately the hotel manager says, well, so that's why the place is crawling with policemen.
There was a very aggressive phone call made shortly after that to the Paris office saying that they had looked at the Crofton Airport Hotel and was surrounded by special branch plainclothes policemen and they couldn't deliver the letter.
Listen, if any of my people had got caught this morning, I would have not only killed the horse, but I would kill you and everyone else I've been in contact with. Do you understand?
Okay.
Do you understand the kind of people you're dealing with?
Yes.
Okay. And if any of my people do get caught, you just watch out for yourself, son.
The gang's attempt to deliver proof at the Crofton Hotel had been aborted. But within hours, they called again.
The proof that the horse is alive is at this minute at the Lost Nari Hotel on the main Dublin to Belfast Road.
I was summoned to the police station in Newbridge, and there they had a photograph of Shergar's head, of his head, and it definitely was him. And beside him they had a paper, the Belfast Daily News, or whatever it was, and the date was on that.
Did the photograph mean that Shergar was alive and well? Stan Cosgrove was unconvinced.
Was enough proof that the horse was alive even at that point. It wasn't. And I mean, you'd want to get much more definite evidence. If you'd seen the complete horse, it would have been different, but this was just the head.
I want to know, are you going to pay the money for the horse, yes or no? Are the shareholders going to pay the money or are they not?
I don't know yet. They were not happy. They wanted more evidence that he was alive. In fact, they wanted a photograph of a horse standing up.
We have to kill the horse. It'll be you who killed him.
Yes, but
you will be responsible to your country for that.
the caller made the call. It was demanding the money and it was extortionist, and he wasn't a bit worried about the Irish bloodstock industry or what happened to the Irish bloodstock industry or indeed the Irish economy.
All I'm interested in is getting that money. Now you're either willing to pay the money or you're not willing to pay the money.
The worst case scenario would have been, I suppose, that the Aga Khan in the first instance might have withdrawn from stud operations in Ireland, and then that some of the other prominent non-nationals who were involved might have followed.
With 20,000 jobs at risk, the search for Shergar had become a national emergency. 200,000 farmers were mobilised to search every inch of the country.
Oh, went into every staple and every part of the farm, they searched every place.
Fields and all?
The fields and all. Well, they didn't do the fields, or they done the fields fairly good. You know on the gates whether there was any traffic in or out.
The Gardaí were overwhelmed with calls from the general public, some more helpful than others.
Indeed, you'd get calls that would be, you'd wonder were they malicious, because sometimes you'd get a call saying there was a horse in a particular field, and really it would be only to annoy the neighbours that the guards would arrive and go down the field looking at the horse. That type of thing goes on all the time.
On tip-offs from the public, the police dug up allotments in Kildare, canal banks in Dublin, and searched travellers' caravans in Limerick. As the hours ticked by, the head of the investigation began to consider unorthodox offers of help.
Well, between diviners, clairvoyants and psychic persons, there are 3 different categories. They must be running into the 50 now.
You had that rather comic episode of Jazzer Murphy with his pork pie hat becoming the darling of the international media, fitting this Irish black comedy. If you'd written it at the time as fiction, you wouldn't have been believed. And then remember, you have all the international media in Ireland, reporters and crews, etc. They would know that behind all this there is a serious investigation going on. But all they can send their media bosses back in Paris or London or New York is this Irish policeman in the funny hat.
The official investigation was going nowhere, but the kidnappers had problems of their own. Shergar's owners, including the Aga Khan, seemed to be stalling for time.
No one is going to get a penny out of it. That is absolutely certain. They've asked for 2 million punts. They won't get 2 million farthings. The Aga Khan is in no position to pay for Shergar to get him back.
The Aga Khan is a world figure. He's used to demands being made on him. As I understand it, he has a policy: you never give in.
I want an answer now.
The Irish and British governments had agreed that in the event of serious extortion, they would not give in.
If any of my people had got caught this morning.
The security services of both the governments conferred, and a decision was taken. Under no circumstances would a ransom be facilitated.
Via the money?
The shareholders are not satisfied with the proof.
You're not satisfied?
They need further proof.
Well, if you're not satisfied, that's it.
That was the final call. Just before midnight on day 4, communications with Paris ceased. The kidnappers knew they had no chance of getting the £2 million ransom. Would they now let Shergar go?
If any harm happens to that horse, it is going to do the industry an amount of damage in this country. And for that reason alone, I would ask them to return the horse safely.
I don't believe that any of us actually thought that any Irish would actually kill a horse.
I did pray. I definitely did pray that he would come back, that they would get him back.
It's still a puzzle as to why they didn't release the horse.
In February 1983, the world waited for news of Shergar's safe return, but nothing came. The contacts with the Aga Khan's office in Paris were never resumed. And as the months passed, it became clear that Shergar was gone for good. At the end of the year, insurers began to pay out to Shergar's owners for their losses. But one member of the syndicate was in for a shock.
The Norwich Union wouldn't accept the horse was dead, except I could produce evidence, and that meant I had to find his body. And then I would have to prove that he died within that period.
Unlike the other owners, Stan's policy didn't cover him for Shergar's theft, only for his death. Without a body, Stan's insurers didn't have to cough up.
No payment. No. And just on the word theft, they took a very narrow view.
Stan was forced to take the search for Shergar seriously. But to the press, the Derby winner's disappearance quickly became a classic shaggy horse story. Shergar became the equine Lord Lucan, a missing celebrity sighted all over the world.
What's another year to someone who's lost everything that he owns?
The decades passed, but Stan always believed that the truth about Shergar lay closer to home. Then, in the spring of 2000, one man made an intriguing discovery.
Shergar! 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 And down here, we were on our knees, and you know the way you would be now fiddling around and all that, and all of a sudden, I came upon sacking wrapped. And when I opened the sacking bag, to my amazement, there was a horse's skull. And as you know, the excitement when I saw a bullet hole, and then I examined it again, there was 2 bullet holes through the forehead of the horse. Shergar! Shergar, Shergar, Shergar was the cry all over. There was people way down further from us, like, and somebody said, you know, we found Shergar, and you could hear it ring through the glen, we found Shergar. And I said, my God, I have solved the mystery of Shergar, you know?
The bizarre discovery of a concealed horse's head in a remote part of County Kerry hit the headlines. The world waited to see if this really was the missing Derby winner.
The horse appears to have been shot, and shot as a veterinary surgeon would shoot him.
But tests showed the mysterious skull was that of a 2-year-old horse. Shergar was nearly 5 when he was taken.
Shergar! Shergar!
Once more, Stan Cosgrove's hopes were dashed. He still hasn't received a penny from his insurers.
I never want to hear about this horse again. I don't want to hear about him ever again, as long as I'm alive. And this is the last time I'm ever going to talk about him. Anybody ever ask me again? No, never again.
What did happen to Shergar? His body has never been found. No one has been charged or convicted for his kidnap. There have been 20 years of false trails and conspiracy theories. Now, through intelligence sources and secret evidence from the original investigation, a picture emerges that may reveal just who kidnapped Shergar and why. In 1983, the police knew more about Shergar's kidnap than they were prepared to reveal. 1 week after the calls to Paris stopped, the guards made a major breakthrough. By a wall near Shergar's stud, a loaded magazine from an automatic rifle was discovered. This key piece of evidence was kept secret until now.
Well, the finding of the magazine was very significant because it indicated to us that it was a unit that possibly operated in South Armagh. The magazine was one for a rifle that was used by the Provisional IRA in South Armagh. It was in fact the same make, and that indicated that it was a Provisional IRA operation.
The rifle magazine was hard evidence linking the kidnap to the IRA. But in 1983, it couldn't lead the guards to the horse or the actual kidnappers. But today, this man is prepared to reveal publicly what he knows about the IRA's plan to kidnap Shergar. In 1983, Sean O'Callaghan was a senior member of the IRA, but also, secretly, a Garda informant.
Well, John O'Callaghan was Southern Commander of the IRA. Of that, there's absolutely no doubt, and he was a very important and key figure, and at that time a trusted figure. It would have been impossible, in fact, for these operations to have taken place without him knowing about them.
In the early part of 1983, I was working for the IRA's Southern Command. And Southern Command's remit was essentially to provide finance, to provide training facilities and bomb-making facilities. It made the mortars, it made the explosives, and it was supposed to provide finance.
In the early 80s, the Republican movement was trying to back 2 horses. The hunger strikes had led to the Armalite and the ballot box strategy. These twin campaigns relied, above all else, upon cash.
The IRA was hovering on the edge of bankruptcy. It raised about £2 million a year. That £2 million was totally eaten up by continuing its campaign. It had no money to expand. I was at an IRA meeting in Middleton in 1982, and It arose because there wasn't any doubt that Southern Command was failing to provide the IRA with the kind of finance that the IRA thought Southern Command could provide it with. So they were obviously struggling for, and knew it would take kind of fairly extraordinary intervention if they were going to raise that kind of money.
In late 1982, a notorious IRA leader emerged from his latest prison sentence. According to police and Republican sources, the IRA gave Kevin Mallon the task of raising several £1 million.
Tough hombre, you know. I mean, he was a guy who had earned his pips. You know, there are those within the Republican movement who rose to the top who, you know, supposedly never pulled a trigger. That could not be said for Kevin Mallon. This was a guy who led from the front. You know, the IRA needed money. How were they going to get money? What was the quickest and most guaranteed way of getting money? And that would have been his approach to that type of problem.
After Kevin Mallon came out of jail, he turned up in Kerry a couple of times. I met him a couple of times. He came out of jail with some very clear ideas in his head. And one of them was to undertake kidnappings. So Mallon was put in charge of what the IRA Army Council described as special operations. A guy called Jerry Fitzgerald was the adjutant of Southern Command. And there was a little team of guys in Dublin. They were a part of a Southern Command team. Suddenly, we were told that these people were now no longer part of Southern Command. You know, what had been the Southern Command team had now become the Special Operation Team under the control of Mallon.
A senior Garda source confirms O'Callaghan's recollection that in early '83, a small group of known IRA men had changed their behaviour. Then, in February, Mallon's team suddenly reappeared.
Come with me. Over that car. Come on. Move!
Who were the Shergar kidnappers? The Gardaí couldn't charge anyone who had played a part in Shergar's abduction. A few months later, though, they had a major success against Mallon's Special Operations Team. With no ransom for Shergar, the IRA had to go again. One night in August, the team approached the Wicklow home of wealthy businessman Galen Weston. But this time, the Gardaí were waiting for them. After a fierce gun battle, key members of the kidnapped team were captured. Jerry Fitzgerald, Nicky Keogh, and 3 others were given lengthy prison sentences for their part in the attempted kidnap.
The same team, essentially the same team that went to kidnap Shergar, went to kidnap Galen Weston, and they all were convicted of the attempted kidnapping of Weston.
Police sources also believe that a number of the same individuals were involved in both kidnaps, a view supported by those who have studied the IRA closely.
Mallon would have put together a team consisting of people that he knew and trusted. They would have carried out the first kidnapping, which was Shergar. The same team, having had some experience of kidnapping, would have been used for the second kidnapping.
Sean O'Callaghan is sure of his claims because shortly after Shergar's kidnap, he met a leading member of the Special Operations Team.
I was in Dublin having a meeting. I got a message from Jerry Fitzgerald to say he wanted to see me. In the course of the conversation, which took place in the Garden of Remembrance off Blessington Street, he said to me that they had carried out the kidnapping of Shergar. That knowledge might have been available to about 6 to 8 people within Southern Command.
O'Callaghan is a veteran of several IRA operations. He knew several members of the kidnapped team personally.
If they came to your door, it could have been absolutely terrifying.
Go on, move it! Right, okay. Everyone keep quiet, right?
Jerry Fitzgerald would have been in charge of the team, and you'd expect him normally to be fairly calm in those circumstances. Nicky Keogh would have been regarded in IRA terms as an absolutely first-class operator.
Okay.
It wouldn't surprise me if they had been very, very aggressive and rather loud and slightly kind of flaky, because they would have been under enormous pressure from Mallon.
The kidnap team was just one part of an intricate plan devised by the IRA to exchange the horse for cash.
As I understand it, the operation was divided into 3 parts. You had a separate group phoning the Aga Khan, trying to get the money. You had another group laying false trails, phoning horse owners or well-known breeders, offering to use them as intermediaries to draw off the police power. And then you had the actual gang with the horse.
The IRA's kidnap plan was well executed, but Kevin Mallon had made several misjudgments. Firstly, that the Aga Khan was Shergar's sole owner, and secondly, that kidnapping a horse would attract little attention.
He thought, it's a horse. You know, for Christ's sake, it's a horse. Right? The horse ain't going to have any relatives on the television.
I think what the IRA had failed to calculate, certainly in terms of the response of British public opinion, was that a lot of people care much more about horses than they do about human beings, unfortunately.
But the major flaw in the plan was, for Shergar, a fatal one. The horse was seized during the stud season to increase pressure on his owners, but the IRA hadn't banked on handling a stallion in stud.
I'd say he got troublesome. I'd say he gave them a fair bit of trouble because, number one, there was probably none of them knew anything about horses, you know. And maybe some of them were a bit scared of him being a stallion.
In the days immediately after Shergar's kidnap, Jerry Fitzgerald trusted Sean O'Callaghan with the secret of what really happened to Shergar.
The day that I met Jerry Fitzgerald in the Garden of Remembrance, he strongly suggested that Shergar had been killed within hours of his kidnap. They couldn't cope with Shergar. The horse went completely demented after they'd kidnapped it, that it had badly damaged its left leg in the horse box, and they'd had to kill it very quickly. If Shergar was going completely demented and was totally out of control, then killing it might not have been that easy. You know, it might have been messy. So, you know, the idea that it might be done with a sort of single clinical shot to the head might not be the case at all.
Shergar was dead within days of being snatched by the IRA. Only the kidnappers know where they buried his body. A third kidnap in 1983, though, provides the best clue as to where his remains may lie. In November, another businessman, Don Tidy, was held captive by the IRA in a remote part of Leitrim before being rescued by the security forces.
The county of Leitrim has a population of about 25,000 people. I mean, it's almost deserted. And the area also has, I mean, it has a huge track record in looking after IRA people on the run, IRA training camps, and if anybody did a cursory glance back through, nobody was ever caught up in North County Leitrim. IRA training camps weren't found there. People weren't arrested there. You know, it just had this huge backup of support.
A Garda source confirms that this area is considered the most likely location of Shergar's remains. In the 1980s, several places in Leitrim were secretly excavated by the Guards, with no success.
We've never found out exactly where Shergar is. We'd like to be able to find him and put this thing to rest. We still keep getting reports every so often about bones of a horse being found somewhere. But to date, we haven't found Shergar.
Kevin Mallon has denied any involvement in the kidnap of Shergar. He claims to have ended his IRA activities in 1974. Nicky Keogh served 9 years of a 12-year sentence for the Weston kidnap attempt. He's now a Sinn Féin councillor in Dublin, and also denies any part in Shergar's abduction. Jerry Fitzgerald was released from prison in the early 90s. He's now believed to be living in America. 20 years on, the IRA won't admit that they killed Shergar. In his short life, the young stallion who came from behind to win the Derby captured the hearts of thousands. But the sad legacy of his kidnap is that the final resting place of this legendary racehorse remains a mystery.
Normally a horse like him, when he died, he'd be put in a certain grave and there'd be a plaque over him. But he's lying out in some country field. No one knows where he is, which is not nice.